I do. I remember meeting and playing with Joe Walsh way back. He was a great guy. I haven't seen him in ages, but he was really supportive early on. I remember that being. I remember getting a Christmas card from him that first year and just being thrilled by it. Joe Walsh in a Santa hat. But what a character. I mean, I started really young. I mean, it was certainly a choice, but once the ball started rolling, kind of felt like nature taking its course a little bit. I mean, it's the family lineage, and that music was so prevalent around my household. I wasn't around the scene at all, but the music was always there. Those records, whether it was the Fillmore East or the Layla record or B.B. King live at the Regal, or just the music from that era was always playing. And I never rebelled against it. I always enjoyed it. I always enjoyed my parents' record collection, and ended up getting the vinyl from them eventually. So that worked out well. It's the first time I got to meet Les and play with him, until the last time that I saw him, you never lose that feeling that you're in the presence of, not just a legend, but an amazing person, and one of a kind. I mean, there was no one quite like him. Guys like Tom Dowd or B.B. King, Willie Nelson, these people that you meet in the industry, Les was kind of a little bit of all of them. I mean, he was an inventor. He was just such an amazing mind, an amazing player, obviously, and just a total character. It's there's a handful of moments you have, and me personally and our group and my wife, we've been fortunate to have sometimes, I think, more than a handful of those moments where, while it's happening, you realize it's a story you're going to be telling for years. Like getting to, me and Susan getting to get on stage with Les Paul at the Iridium with our son, who was 6 months old at the time, and playing with Les Paul, and him playing guitar, Susan singing, me playing, our son on stage with him. It was just a pretty magical moment. And he was, and when the music got really good, he was a little kid again. He was really moved by it, and it was legit right to the end. An honor to get a chance to be around somebody like that, much less play with him. Yeah, I mean, I'm really one guitar at a time. I mean, if I'm using an alternate tuning on something, I'll obviously switch a guitar. But I have the SG that I've been playing for about a decade now, that I just got off the rack. And once I find a guitar that feels comfortable, that's really all I need. I feel like you can get a lot of different tones if you really know an instrument. You can really dig into it and find the nuances. And then I just find once you really get comfortable with an instrument, it's just, you don't have to think about it. Then the things you hear, you can just put into action. You're not having to find your way around the little quirks of every different guitar. I feel like, for me, it's better to just have an instrument. I think about the great horn players. Like, they had an axe, and that was it. You got your horn, and that's your thing. And if you need a baritone or a tenor or a soprano, obviously you're going to change for different, for a different instrument. But for me, if I'm changing tunings, I'll do it. And occasionally, like, I have an old Firebird that I want to use, and there's occasional things that I want to tweak, but 90% of the time, I'm a one guitar man.
Sorry, just the guy was, hey, Primo.
You know, when I first started playing, when I was maybe, I guess, 9 or 10 years old, I would use a pick. Then when I'd pick up a slide, I'd put a pick between my fingers, and I just love the sound of. I just think the slide speaks better with the meat of your fingers. And I would always drop a pick, and after a while, I was like, you know what? I rarely use that thing. I'm not going to pick it up next time I drop it. And I just found that I felt a lot more comfortable without it, and I felt like maybe it's a little more unique approach. And the sounds I was looking for were there without it. And then it wasn't until later on that, I realized that some of my favorite guitar players, Hubert Sumlin and others, Wes Montgomery, like they're not using a pick. I don't need a pick. So it's a small fraternity. I guess a lot of classical players and flamenco players, but for rock guitar players, there's not many that don't use it. But it's just a sound. I mean, I prefer maybe the warmer sound that you get with your fingers, and also think that there's there's just strange things you can do with it. I find that I have no real technique with my right hand. It's just completely unorthodox and kind of got a mind of its own. I was doing these guitar interviews in Japan, and they were trying to get me to break it down. And I realized when I would watch what my right hand was doing, I couldn't play. It was like, what are you looking at me for? This has nothing to do with you. So it's a little bit of a mystery to me too. But just years of gigging and playing, you start finding your own little idiosyncrasies and your own things, and kind of becomes a part of your playing. And a lot of it you don't even realize is happening. So it's I figured if it ain't broke, break it. Actually, it's good to break it.